This is Joy News Prime with me, Samuel Kojo Brace. In our headlines, government condemns enskinment of a rival Boko Naba and reiterates Naba Asigri Abogrago Asoka. The second is the Boko Naba. We have details as a bipartisan group of MPs condemn and describe the act as null and void and call on government to do more than just condemn the action.
The Nairi, Na Bohugu Mahami, Abdullah Sheriga II, has purported to enskin a rival chief for Boko. This is unacceptable. Such purported enskinment is null and void.
Now also, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta expresses surprise at continuous picketing at his office by pensioner bondholders, insisting government has addressed their concerns.
I'm a little unclear, as to exactly what now the problem is.
Meanwhile, Ghana's creditworthiness has been downgraded to further junk status as international ratings agency Fitch partly blames this on the failure of government to honor interest payment on matured bonds. Now, Ghana is also set to produce vaccine in the country as Parliament passes the National Vaccine Institute bill into law. We have details as the minority say they are not opposed to the law in principle but will not tolerate a fill and package policy. Now, the overlord of Mamprugu, Na Bohaga Abdullahi Mahami Sheriga, has enskinned a retired educationist as the new chief of the Boko traditional area. The new chief, Na Seidu Abagri Kulga II, was enskinned at Nalerigo amidst a heavy security presence, an attempt by the Regional Security Council to stop it from taking place. In his address, the new chief called on the people to end all hostilities and embrace peace to ensure socio-economic progress and development. Correspondent Elias Utanko was there in Father's report.
The enskillment was done Thursday morning by the king of the Mamprugu traditional area, of which Boko is said to be part, now Bohago Abdullahi Mahami Sheriga, together with his royal court members. It started with the arrival of the families and sympathizers of the 4 Mamprugu Gate in Boko. Soon, scores of people in around Nalerigo began to gather at the palace to witness the historic enskillment of a Boko Naba by a Mamprugu overlord after nearly 40 years. However, while the processes were ongoing, members of the Northeast Regional Security Council, led by the Regional Minister Yidana Zakari, arrived at the palace in the company of heavily armed security forces. The presence of the Regional Minister briefly halted the process as the crowd erupted in opposition against his presence and demanded that he leave the place. After a brief opposition from the crowd, Mr. Yidana, following the intervention of the palace elders, was allowed to engage the overlord in a short private conversation. Whilst on his way out after the meeting with the overlord, the crowd began to hoot at him and his delegation. A palace elder later told Joy News that the minister had come to accompany the overlord to Accra upon the invitation of President Nana Akufo-Addo. The elder added that the overlord turned down the invitation and told the minister it was too late to stop the enskillment. The enskillment processes then resumed and soon ended with the announcement of Na Seidu Abagari with a chieftaincy titled Na Akuluga II as the new chief of the Boko Paramount Scheme. Speaking to Joy News, some of the residents believe this enskillment will ensure the return of peace in Boko.
The ban has never solved any problem. Bans have killed many people. We have seen many deaths, we have seen many maiming, we have seen many properties and lives destroyed. It has to stop. The youth, I am a young man and I feel very bad. Every time I see pictures of precisely youth being killed, as somebody who is a parent, I feel very much aggrieved. I am not happy.
There is nothing like a Supreme Court ruling. So indeed, what the Nigeria has done today is the best thing to do. Indeed, this is a stepping stone to a resolution of the conflict or crisis in Boko. I would want to entreat politicians to respect the chieftaincy institution. So the government should rather pay attention or concentrate on how to ensure that lives and property are not lost there. But as for taking the chief home, in fact, the chief will soon be home. There is nobody on earth that will be able to stop the legitimate Boku Naba from getting to Boku.
I expect everything to return to normal as usual. We've had it before during the era of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana's first president. He created this thing in the first place. But after the overthrow of Nkrumah in 1966, the then Nayiri, the 30th king of Bambu, Nabongo Adam Badimso, and Skin Na Tampura Adam Zanjo as the 14th Boku Naba. And you can go and check the history. Boku returned to normalcy. Everything was moving on smoothly until the demise of the 14th Boku Naba, Na Tampura Adam Zanjo, before we had what we were having. So we are optimistic that everything will return to normalcy after this experiment.
So everybody in Mampuru, Upper East, in North East, we are happy to see such a thing. For Nayiri to skin Boku Naba, because all that place is for Yawa.
The new chief is a popular retired educationist whose grandfather was the 12th Boku Naba. He was unanimously approved by the crowd as they burst into loud cheers amidst drumming and dancing. The new chief, Na Akuluga II, called for an end to all hostilities in Boku.
Finally, the Boku program that has existed for almost half a century has come to a close.
Ilyasu Tanko, reporting from Nalerigu for Joy News.
Now, correspondent Ilyasu Tanko has been monitoring events as they unfolded at Nalerigu and joins us on Zoom now. Ilyasu, the Regional Security Council, through the Minister, Yidana Zakari, had attempted to stop the enskinment but was met with stiff resistance from the youth. Tell us about that particular scene.
Well, the process had just heated up when the minister arrived and wanted to have a word with the overlord. He faced a brief resistance from the youth, and the palace elders had to intervene to ensure that the regional minister had the opportunity to meet with the overlord. And so it was through the intervention of the palace elders that the regional minister was able to see the overlord. He met him briefly and had a private conversation with him, and he came out later, and that was when the youth or the church crowd started to hoot at him and was demanding he leave the place. Apparently, information had already spread that the minister, according to them, was trying to stop the enskinment. Mind you, the youth of Nalerigu has been agitating over other reasons, and so when the regional minister came there, the youth were already charged. And so it was through the intervention of the palace that he was able to have a word with the overlord. Unfortunately, the message that we got was that the president has sent him to bring or come with the overlord of Mamprugu to Accra, all in attempt, as we understand, to stop this particular process. But that didn't happen. The minister left and the enskinment went on.
Okay. Now, you've been in this community and reporting on this particular event. You reported that there was heavy presence of security in town. It is all done now. What more can you report on that?
Well, I still see some of the security personnel patrolling the Nalerigu township. Shortly before coming on air, I just met a security vehicle on patrols in the Nalerigu township. What I learned is that most of the local police were not aware of this particular heavy deployment of their colleagues. And so my understanding is that it came as a surprise. And so there was no any preparation by the local police here until the arrival of the deployment from possibly Tamale or Bolega. That's when we saw that the local police had to join them to come and take up positions at the chief palace. Unfortunately, despite their presence, the enskinment went on, and as we speak, it has come to an unsuccessful. I still see some police officers patrolling the township.
Okay, all right. Grateful to you. But let's bring in Albert Sore, who has also been following this particular matter for us. Albert, first take us through the Information Ministry statement on this development.
Yes, so the statement from the Ministry of Information released this afternoon says, and I read verbatim, the government condemns developments in Nalerugo today, February 15, 2023, concerning the purported enskinment of a new Boko Naba as illegal and a threat to national security. Government further reiterates that Naba Asiri Abugurago Azoka II is Boko Naba, duly gazetted and a member of the National and Upper East Regional Houses of Chiefs. Security agencies are therefore being directed to arrest and to prosecute any other person who holds himself out as Boko Naba. Further, any developments that have the potential to undermine the peace of Boko will also be dealt with swiftly and in accordance with law. The document is signed by Kojo who is the Minister for Information.
So we've been to Nalerigo where the enskinment happened. You have been monitoring situation in Boko because that's where the new chief has to come and locate. I mean, come to run the affairs of Boko. What is the mood in that community? We've been able to understand what's happening in Nalerigo. What's happening in Boko?
Yeah, so this afternoon we understand there were jubilations, particularly around the Mampusi side of the town, where people were excited to hear the news of the enskinment. We also learned that there was a heavy security present in the town. People thought that the security were getting ready in anticipation of the possible arrival of the chief who was enskinned today. But life went on normal in most parts of the town. There were places where people were not seen because many people were indoors. Many people deserted the streets in some areas. But that has also become normal of Boko in recent times. People tend to stay away from certain places because of difference. So we do not know if of some of the areas in Boko today exactly had to do with the enskinment of the new chief. But this evening, monitoring the situation, we do not know if he has arrived yet. Security have continued to remain in the town. In fact, what I have learned is that from the many more men arrived in the town, and many people are feeling that it's possible they may have had a hint of what was going to happen today. But last week, when the previous incidents happened in Boko, the Regional Security Council did indicate that they were going to send more men to the town to maintain the peace. So far, we haven't heard of any disturbance whatsoever in Boko this evening.
All right, grateful to you. Now let's bring in security analyst, Dr. Adam Bonner. Doc, I'm grateful for your time. How does this impact on the security situation of Boko?
Well, yes, good evening. It's actually going to further worsen an already bad situation. Even with just one chief, one gazetted chief in Boko, you know that it's been killing upon killing, shooting upon counter shooting and all that. And so as far as I'm concerned, this latest or this morning's enskinment will make the situation in Boko worse. And I am happy the security agencies, even though I will say reactive, have responded accordingly and, monitoring. I'm told, that a lot of the young people, especially on the Kusasi side, were, had armed themselves, preparing for, to attack in case the person who has been enskined attempts an entry into Boko. But from what I'm hearing, it will be illegal for him to enter Boko, according to what I'm hearing, government say. And so, for now, what I can say is that it happened. It shouldn't. I'm not sure where the state security and government where they were when because for 2 weeks I have had at least some information that this was going to take place. And so I'm not sure whether they were not aware of it, because at least I shared with one or two of them, but I'm not sure what happened. But for now, I would say it will make the situation, the dynamics in Boko have changed completely. Now we have one gazetted chief, and we have an individual who is purported to have been skinned, and you know what that means. So who is who? We know that the law says there are processes you go through to be made a chief per our constitution and per our statutes, the Chieftaincy Act. There are, processes you go through. So one of them has gone through those processes and duly gazetted. One has just been skinned. In the midst of the conflict, in the midst of a heavy number of casualties, people dying on both sides, and all of us trying to broker peace. And then you will have this probably enskinment taking place. I don't think this is something that we should play around with.
If that's the case, what do you make of the statement from the government, which is, calling this an illegality and calling on the security agencies to beef up in that part of the country?
The government statement, if you ask me, I'm not sure. I would say what I can say is that the illegality is actually has to do with the law. The law is very clear. So government probably is just re-emphasizing the position of the law. I'm not by this holding brief for government, but government is re-emphasizing the position of the law, the Chieftaincy Act, the Constitution, the 1992 Republican Constitution of this country. Government probably only rehashed it by stating that what took place is illegal. So if you ask me from where I sit, the law is very clear. Both the Constitution and the Chieftaincy Act of this country states how the processes a chief must go through to be made a chief. Okay. You have to go through a process, and usually you have to be gazetted. If there is someone or there is another group that is not happy, the law says you can go to courts and probably get the whole process injuncted or the whole process, set aside. But until then, it will be difficult to do anything outside the law. Once you do that, that would be fly in the face of the law, and that would be illegal. And so as far as I'm concerned, it is a serious security breach. It is a serious security breach. Because then I monitored it from about 4 a.m. early this morning when I was told, when I had a call that this is what was going on. And the Kusashis on the other side had threatened hellfire, that there was going to be massacre.
Okay.
When you begin to hear this, you know that obviously, even before today, there's been a lot of killing going on. Then this happens today. You cannot take this threat from Boko lightly.
Okay.
So I'm sure government might have done this for some reasons.
Okay, Doc. I'm so grateful to you for your time here. Dr. Adam Bona is a security analyst there. Now moving on to other stories. The Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta says he will meet President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo to take a final decision on the continuous demand of pensioner bondholders to be exempted from the domestic debt exchange program. This was a decision after a crunch meeting between the minister and the group on day 8 of their protest. There is more in the following report. For the third time in 8 days, the picketing of members of the Pensioner Bondholders Forum forced the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to give them an audience. The minister said he was hopeful the last press release from the ministry would have settled the matter.
My issue, which I told your leader, was that now you have very little of the old bond in the system, which means that in the event of a crisis personally, your ability to trade that paper in is really diminished. But that's a choice you make, that, I don't really care about that, I'll continue holding that. And we are saying if you continue holding that, fine, government would honor those papers. So I'm a little unclear, you know, as to exactly what now the problem is. And
what looked like a calm tete-a-tete broke into total confusion when a member of the Arise Ghana group questioned why the bondholders should hold him to his words when such previous promises were not kept. The minister was unhappy.
I beg your pardon? Well, if the no. Are you a pensioner?
Audience. There's a bit of chaos because when the minister posed the question to know what was happening, there was some sort of interference from the Arise Ghana leader who brought up the issue of mistrust of citizens in government. Looks like the minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, was not happy with that, and so he questioned whether he is also part of the pensioners group, and I think that's what brought the chaos, and he's walked away, and so we would follow to know exactly what would be the next line of action. He's moved to the other side of the ministry in anticipation to continue the address and hear from the group, the pensioner bondholders, to know exactly what the problem is.
After a marathon meeting between the two parties behind closed doors, a consensus was reached.
I didn't start this if I didn't know it can work.
But what exactly did he tell you? Because
he told us everything, all the things that he have been telling us, the difficulty, everything. So
the same
English. So the short tale is that we said we just want the exemption. Using the word you have been exempted. So that is what the minister is going to work on now with higher authorities and come out with something for us to hear. No, we are hoping by the time it gets to Parliament, something would be said.
Did he tell you why your decision would have to be taken in conjunction with the president?
No, well, he just explained that those were like corporate ones, the pension funds, and they can use their funds to do something as a group. So that's easier. If you don't want to bring them under, you can design a package for them. But the difficulty is the individuals. If you exempt them, you can't treat them as that one.
While the pensioner bondholders look forward to a conclusive decision on their fate by close of day Thursday, they have planned to picket Parliament to press home their demands. James Kwesi Aveji's report read to you. Now, international ratings agency Fitch Ratings has downgraded Ghana's credit worthiness to further junk status. In its latest report on Ghana, it said Fitch Ratings downgraded Ghana's long-term local currency issuer default rating to restricted default from C. It attributed the downgrade to the decision by government to embark on a debt exchange program and the recent default on local bonds that matured on February 6, 2023, and another one which is due for payment this week. Isaac Kofi is here to break down the figures for us. Kofi, how can you get us to appreciate what is happening?
Well, Kojo, yesterday was Valentine's Day. Unfortunately for us, this was a Valentine's gift we received from Fitch Ratings agencies. They have downgraded our local currency bond ratings from a C to an RD. RD simply means restricted default. It simply means that government is going to default on certain bonds, but they are still trading those bonds. And default is actually the point where we are at the moment. So as we speak, Fitch has actually downgraded Ghana's local credit ratings. We know we have three types. We have the local credit ratings agencies, we have the long-term issuer credit ratings agencies, and the foreign one. The foreign one is still at C. Fitch is giving a warning to government that if they go ahead to talk to private creditors and they agree that Ghana should go ahead to do a default or Ghana should go ahead to do an external debt restructuring, then we are going to see our external, bonds ratings also moving from the C to the RD status. But as we speak now, if you are holding any bond in Ghana and it is domestic currency denominated, mind you that its status has been reduced to further junk territories. Ordinarily, you wouldn't see Fitch actually giving this type of credit ratings, but they've actually attributed this to what is currently going on and the fact that government is going on to restructure debt about close to 82 billion cedis. The target was 97 billion cedis. We know they said they've reached the participation rate of 85%, more than 85%. Now, we've been looking at this chart. This is the long-term issuer credit rate. It's different from the local, bonds with local currency denominated. Now, 2022 alone, that's last year, Ghana suffered more than 8 credit ratings from three of the credit ratings agencies that we know. That's Fitch, Moody's, S&P. All of them downgraded Ghana's status in terms of our bonds that people were holding. So 8 of them, and I was trying to go through our data repository, and then I found out that in our entire history as a republic, I have never seen this number of credit ratings in a single year before, more than 8 of them. Okay. And in the Fourth Republic, this is the first time we are seeing credit ratings or status actually some going to an RD or SD status, selective default, restricted default, or further junk territories. We've never been at this point as far as we started this force. Since 1992, I was trying to go through the data and I've not seen any credit ratings like this before. But this is the warning. This is a warning that they are giving to government. They are telling government, you are at a restricted default at the moment, but if you go ahead and if you fail to honor the coupon payment that you said you are going to pay to the, the bondholders, local bondholders, if you fail, we will downgrade you again. If you fail, we will drop your status to further junk territories. I don't know, because I was looking at the scale. We are at the bottom. I don't know if you are going to create another bottom scale for Ghana to go again, but I feel that this is the final stage that we've gotten to in terms of being at the bottom. But okay, you're warning us.
So this warning, are they talking about those who have taken part in this debt exchange program, or those who stayed out of it? Well, both, because remember that the initial promise was that the initial arrangement was that Ghana government was going to pay 0% in 2023, go ahead to pay 5%, and then a rise to 10% and it diminishes. But government is now promising banks, it's promising individual bondholders, it's promising certain institutional creditors, different rates. So if you're a pension, a retiree, and then you've submitted your bonds and it has been tendered and accepted, 15%, 5 years maturity. Exactly. So government, Fitch is saying that if you fail to honor some of these promises, and some of them have not even tendered their bonds. The finance minister was saying that if you look at individual bondholders, just about 16% of them submitted, leaving the room for about more than 80%. So these 80% that are still holding on to bonds, if you fail to honor the coupons, then it means you have failed these people, and we will downgrade you further. But what does this downgrade mean to the economy when government is out there looking for sources to augment what it has to manage the economy? In a long time, so Brace, government is owing 2 different class of people. The external people where the debt is in foreign currencies, local people where debt is in our own local currencies. So we are finding it difficult to even pay loans in cedis. How much more loans in dollars? When we look at our international reserve dwindled to just 1.5 months of import cover, and you ask yourself, if government is failing to pay loans denominated in your own local currencies, then it simply tells you that we've actually destroyed the bonds market that we have. The only thing available to governments now is a treasury bill market, and just like we are hearing that even the debt exchange, government allowed some people to trade their bonds, to transfer their bonds into treasury bills. It's around 38 billion cedis that we're talking about. This is no good news for the country. All right, thank you very much. That's Isaac Kofi with our research desk here. Now, to our earlier story on Boko, a bipartisan group of MPs from the Upper East region in Parliament have condemned the enskinment of a rival chief for the Kusau Traditional Council. At the heart of this Boko dispute, which has raged on for years, is a chieftaincy conflict that has ultimately led to loss of lives. Today, reporter that the overlord of Mamprogo Nairi Na Bohagu Mahami Sheriga has installed a new chief, but the MP say the purported enskinment is null and void and will not be recognized. Listen to MP for Zebula and former Majority Leader Cletus Avoka, who spoke on behalf of the group.
It has come to the attention of the members of Parliament from Boko Central, Zebula, Binduri, Pusiga, Timpani, and Garu, who include Honorables Mahma Ayaraga, Cletus Avoka, Abanga Abdullahi, Haji Ladi Ayi Ayamba, Lydia Lamisa Kamvareba, and Honorable Albert Akoko Alazuga, that the Nairi, Na Bohugu Mahami Abdullah Sheriga II has purported to enskin a rival chief for Boku. This is unacceptable and should not come from a person of his stature. Such purported enskinment is null and void and will not be recognized by any institution under the 1992 Constitution. The government of Ghana must take every step to ensure the maintenance of peace and security and hold perpetrators of this criminal act accountable. Meanwhile, the members of Parliament for the area call on the people of the Kusauk traditional area and its environs to remain calm and assure them that this unlawful conduct will not stand. We are watching closely the level of political will of the government of President Nana Akufo-Addo and Vice President Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia in respecting the Constitution of Ghana and the right of the Kusasi people to rule over their own land and to have their independence. The Zugrana Naba Asigiri Aborago Azoka II, who is the Bokunaba and president of the Kusa Traditional Council, remains the only recognized paramount chief of the Kusa Traditional Area as recognized by law. The conduct of the Nairi has the potential to aggravate the already precarious security situation in Boku, and this must be resisted.
Now, they are calling on government to do more than just condemnation and take decisive action. The group says they are surprised that security agencies did not pick any intelligence to forestall what they call an illegal enskinment.
Yes, we are pleasantly happy that they have issued a statement condemning the act, but that's not enough. It is not enough to condemn the act. It should go further than that and make sure that the fellow doesn't act as a chief. That is important. Not words alone, but action by government. There cannot be a rival chief in Boku. There is one chief recognized by law, and that should be respected by everybody under this constitutional dispensation. So government should not just say that we condemn it, but make sure it doesn't work. No rival chief exists in Boku. That cannot be tolerated. I'm very much surprised that this incident could not be nipped in the bud, that it could have been prevented. You all know that prevention is better than cure. I think that they have enough intelligence on the ground to have to have informed government to avert this development. It is unfortunate that it wasn't averted, but we are still confident that the government of the day will make sure that there is no rival chief in Boku.
Now, you're watching Johnny's Prime Still to come here. Ghana set to produce vaccine in the country as Parliament passes the National Vaccine Institute bill into law. We have details as the minority say they are not opposed to the law in principle, but will not tolerate a fail and package policy. Welcome back from the break. Now, Parliament has passed into law the National Vaccine Institute bill. Now, the institute is expected to equip the country in terms of research and vaccine production. At the height of COVID-19, it became a difficult venture getting vaccines, prompting government to propose the setting up of this institution. Kwekwa Sante has the rest of the story from Parliament.
The audit of COVID-19 expenditure showed that government paid more than $120 million to UNICEF for vaccines, but has not been able to get 80 million worth of the product. Chairman of the Health Committee, Dr. Nana Ufriye, says the country is now ready to produce vaccines locally with the passage of this bill.
But the bill sets the tone for the country to engage into the business of vaccine production, vaccine development, vaccine research. That's what the bill is about. And therefore, what I said is that once it's passed, it set the tone for the nation to go into the business of vaccine. Yes, an institute is being set up according to the law. And that institute, respectfully, will be under the Ministry of Health.
The minorities, however, saying they are not opposed to the idea in principle, but will not tolerate importing finished goods into the country and only packaging here. Kwabena Minta Kando is minority spokesperson on health.
In principle, I have absolutely nothing against it, to the extent that the object of the act will be obeyed, because the object says that we are going to research, do development, and also do the manufacturing of the vaccines in the country. I do not want a situation where we will be resorting to what they call fill and finish, just packaging the vaccines in the country. I don't think that that is the intent of the bill that we have just passed into law.
At the height of COVID-19, one of the big problems facing developing countries like Ghana was how to get vaccines. Indeed, at the time, Ghana only survived on donations from other countries and other Western bodies. Parliament has now passed the National Vaccine Institute bill into law. This is government's response to getting Ghana ready for future pandemics and for such occurrences in the future, for Ghana to be able to produce its own vaccines. With this bill now passed into law, government is expected to resource it, to get them the needed resources and facilities to be able to develop vaccines for Ghana. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Now, Attorney General Godfrey Yeboah-Dame says he will not withdraw his legal advice to the Auditor General. He rather says those urging him to do so are advancing an absurd legal opinion. Mr. Dame had urged the Auditor General to unpublish his audit findings into the use of COVID-19 funds. He argued the report ought not to be published till Parliament's Public Accounts Committee probes the matter. This view has since been flatly rejected by Center for Democratic Development, the opposition NDC, and chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. They had all urged the AG to withdraw the advice. Listen to Mr. Dame address this issue.
I think it's actually very much unjustified, unwarranted, and indeed absurd for one to suggest that I ought to withdraw the letter that constitutionally I was mandated to write. I stand by the contents of the press release today, and clearly you see the constitutional and statutory provisions that I advise in support of my position. It tells you that my position was justified in law, and on the contrary, the positions taken by some civil society members are clearly insupportable. I think that the call for me to withdraw an advice that I gave to the Auditor General in lawful exercise of my constitutional mandate under the 1992 Constitution, and I've referred to those provisions in the law, Article 189 of the Constitution, Article 295 of the Constitution, as well as the fundamental provision, Article 88 of the Constitution, which shows that indeed the Attorney General ought to be the legal advisor to the Audit Service, which is part of the Public Service of Ghana, and that's the Auditor General. He's also part of the Audit Service, which is also a member of the Public Service of Ghana. So clearly, I do not see how it interfere with the functions of the Auditor General. The Auditor General is doing a good job, but of course, in doing so, he must be guided by the Constitution and the laws of Ghana. And that is what I see to do, that whatever he does, he must be guided by the Constitution and laws of Ghana. We collaborate on various issues. I have the first Attorney to actually issue a writ in the High Court in Kumasi on trying to enforce the disallowance and surcharge issued by this current Auditor General. This current Auditor General issued some notice of surcharge and disallowance. And in December last year, Office of Attorney General in Kumasi filed a writ in Kumasi seeking to recover the amount that the Auditor General sought from the person in question. It's a matter of record. So we give him every support. Of course, I think that for the sake of order and good governance, there ought to be compliance with the Constitution, and that ought to be all under the law. No one's above the law.
Some have questioned the timing of the opinion. You're asking why now of the legal advice? Why
the COVID expenditure issue? Why the other reports that have been issued over the period?
Yes. So the fact that there is a repetition of unconstitutionality, any unconstitutionality no matter the times it's repeated, does not ripen into legality or constitutionality. I'm not constitutional conduct. However, it is, when repeated so often, it doesn't ripen the activity, the constitutionality. It doesn't change the nature of the act.
Now, let's now talk about the classroom project, because some 700 school children are risking their life daily, sitting in weak school structures just to access education. Having told the tragic stories of the 7 kindergarten children who lost their lives in Breman Jamara 6 years ago, we here at the Multimedia Group Limited have decided that we will not sit back for that to happen again. Yes, and that's why we say, while you are extending love to loved ones this month, you do well to remember those 700 kids whose utmost desire is just to get a safe learning environment. Listen to one of them.
It is dangerous for us to learn in. When the rain enters the classroom will be very dirty here. So we don't want this class again. We want a new one. So we don't want this class, we want the other one there. We please them to help us this new building so that we can live comfortably in that new room.
Because when it is raining, our ceiling will be removing. The water will be coming inside this room, so we don't want this class again. We want a new one. We feel shaking. When the rain is falling, we feel shaking, we fear, so that the building will break in. So we want the government to build another school for us. We are telling them to come and help us to build the room, because we are begging them to come and help us to build the building.
Now, that request is certainly not beyond you and myself. That's why you want to join us make this dream come through for these kids. The structure at Breman Jamara site has reached the roofing stage, but we have run out of wood. Grab your phones now and send your donations to 0593 038832. Do this to facilitate the completion of the classroom project. The account name is the Multimedia Group Limited. The number again is 0593 038832. Remember, the classroom project is under the Given for Change project, spearheaded by Star Ghana Foundation to promote self-help initiatives, voluntary giving, and philanthropy to drive development at the local level. Do this and put a smile on someone's face. Now, Earth Rights Ghana, in collaboration with other stakeholders such as the Ministry for Tourism, Art and Culture, the Ghana Hostels Association, and many more, have set out to implement measures to prevent climate risk in Ghana. The Health, Safety and Environment Manager of the Petroleum Commission, Jonathan Nyadomte, at an engagement forum held on Wednesday, reviewed that the Petroleum Commission is laying out measures to ensure waste generated on the seas is segregated and not deposited into water bodies. There's more in this report by Jacqueline and Sumaya Boa.
In an effort to ensure Ghana's environment is safe from climate risk, the Earth Rights Ghana has collaborated with major stakeholders to embark on environmentally friendly activities that will mitigate the impact of climate change. HSE Manager of the Petroleum Commission, Jonathan Nyadomte, revealed that waste generated on the high seas by the rigs and FPSOs are not being disposed into the sea.
So, looking at the POB on board, there are wastes that are generated in different forms. We have some, for the FPSO, you may have the process area also generating waste, as well as the people on board also generating waste. So what the Commission does is that the Commission has come out with regulations that sort of provide goal-oriented solutions to these companies that are working to come up, such as ENI, Talo, you have some drilling service companies like Maersk and others, to come out with possible solution of segregating the waste offshore, and then when the waste is segregated, these waste are brought onshore for further treatment.
President of the Ghana Hostels Association, Dr. Edward Ernest Nyamake Jr., also elaborated on the role that the hotel industry is playing to make the environment safe and sustainable.
Well, you know, the Ghana Hotels Association, or the members of the association, which are basically hotel owners, form part of the bigger travel, tourism and hospitality industry. Now, this is an industry which we've been made to understand contributes a lot to climate change and contributes a lot to making the environment safe and sustainable. You know, there are a lot we can do as an industry in terms of water recycling, in terms of rain harvest, in terms of effective use of electricity, in terms of even planting trees around our facilities and all that. Now, and using technology to reduce utility consumption.
President of the Earthrights Ghana, Enimel Lashon, emphasized that the primary contributor to climate change is human activity, and that unless people are made aware of the consequences, climate change issues will remain a serious worry.
A lot of things are happening in the environment, to our environment. The sun is heating directly upon us now. Why? Because our factories, the planes that fly, the things we do in hotels, emit certain carbon emissions that go to fights. And we are depleting these things by our own activities in hotels. And when we talk about hotels, like for example, the restaurants, the food waste is taken to dumping sites. And these dumping sites, the disposal of it is environmentally unfriendly. So there should be a way of treating the waste in such a way that to be beneficial to the environment. The less we burn things, fossil fuel, the more we reduce climate effect change.
It is anticipated that the stakeholder involvement would produce recommendations and regulations for enhanced environmental standards. Jacqueline, your voice report, read to you.
We'll now take a quick break and bring you showbiz. All right, so time for us to bring you showbiz and Her Royal Highness Becky Bex.
Hello, everyone. Good to see you. How was your Valentine's?
You should have waited for me to then do the
proper introduction.
Anyway, no problem. My Valentine was fine.
Okay, mine was fine. It's all boring, but was fine.
It was boring, huh?
Yeah. I went home, straight home.
Yeah, I hung out with friends.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
You have a life.
Yeah.
Wow, that's.
I have friends, so
nice.
Solomon and Henry, and then Solo's wife.
Okay.
Hanged out with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Diana Hamilton. Okay. So she was on Prime Morning this morning, and she's been talking about her ministry, the impacts of her ministry, and how she's been able to sustain herself or stay relevant till date.
It's amazing. Every day God gives me a reason to be humble, to be grateful. Because then you meet someone who you think is not interested in what you do, and they're telling you how blessed they are, and they will tell you you have no idea the number of people you're blessing. For me, that is a huge testimony. That is a miracle right there. And so every day something like that pops up, or somebody calls you, you meet someone, all over. It's for me, it's humbling.
Right.
It just makes me rely on God more, just to stay there and be able to draw more.
What would you say has made you consistent all these years?
My faith in God.
Right.
The fact that it keeps growing.
Right.
And the fact that for every testimony, I know that He'll do it again.
Yes.
And so I have to, like I said, just stay where I am so that I can draw, not to leave, for all the lighting happening here, for these cameras to work. They are plugged into something, and the camera is not working on its own. The moment that plug is taking off, that camera is useless. That light is useless. But if it stays plugged in and is switched on, and so my relationship with God and my daily communion with Him is what makes me do what I do.
Well, don't forget that Awake Experience with Diana Hamilton is happening on Sunday, 19th of this month at the Perez Dome here in Accra. Also in Kumasi the next weekend, which will be 26th of February. Yeah, at Kumasi Church of Pentecost. So you should make a date with Diana Hamilton. Let's talk about Raja Beat. So he is actually an American beat producer, or say music producer, and he's been talking to us about how Ghanaian musicians or creatives can break through into the international world. He says that marketing of your craft or of their craft is the only way out.
Correct. I believe the same way we kind of do in the U.S. Promotion, marketing, digital marketing plays a big role of how our artists break. So I believe if, you know, these artists could put more money into their promotion and marketing to blow themselves bigger, put themselves inside, you know, on big billboards, have a bigger social media presence and things like that, it could help, you know, the U.S. find them. Because it's easy, you know, we all on the internet, we all on social media looking every day. So if it's in your face, you can't miss it. You understand?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Raja Beats right there. Have you seen Rihanna and A$AP Rocky's new baby?
No,
I don't know. He was out, but like there's an official photo of them. You haven't seen it?
No, I think the one I saw was the unofficial one released, but I have not seen like proper.
Well, it was released earlier. Look at that sweet baby.
Jeez. Oh, he took the forehead of the mother.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, this is so
This
pure.
was released by Vogue, British Vogue. It's actually coming out in March.
Wow.
And we're all looking forward to it. So that's really.
Oh, the boy is handsome.
I know. They're expecting another one. So you can imagine the second. I think that the baby looks like A$AP.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the
no,
first
but the forehead is the mother. Look at the forehead.
Okay.
I mean, that's the mom. Jeez.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the forehead is the mother. Yeah, and the eyes too, just like the mother.
Yeah, just like the mom. So hopefully, the next baby will pick up A$AP's maybe his eyes or his
No, but
head.
maybe he took it. The baby took it. Okay, let me see.
He looks like his father.
Yeah, well. Anyway.
Well,
But that's a beautiful son. Yeah, the son is.
Well, let's end on a very sad note. The family of late South African rapper, aka Forbes, has announced that a memorial will be held in his honor. The event is expected to come off on Friday, February 17, 2023. The memorial, the family noted, is open to the public for those who want to join the family. Remember, aka. It will take place at South Africa's leading event venue, Sandton Convention Center, at 3 p.m. South Africa time. The memorial will also be streamed on AKA's YouTube platform. Following the memorial, the family will hold a private funeral ceremony on Saturday, February 18. AKA's family also thanked the public for the support they have received. Quote, "We as the Forbes family would like to acknowledge the outpouring of love we have received over the past few days." So there you have it, Brace. It's just, I think, this Friday.
Very sad
he'll
development
bury
there.
on Saturday. It's very sad.
Yeah.
Very sad. We don't want something of that sort happening ever again. So that'll be all for Showbiz, Brace.
That's it. And that's on this very sad note. That's how we wrap the bulletin for today. Remember, there is more news and information on myjoyonline.com. My name is Samuel Kojo Brace, and she's Becky.